So we got another patch, another potential set of issues. I'm still working on this old Jeep, and the way I see it, each and every one of these patches that I'm doing presents its own individual, interesting little set of problems. So if you want to see what I run into this time, stick around. Now this is the front corner of the tub on the passenger side, right where it meets that front fender that I did in a previous video. Now this is bulged out, but I can feel behind here that there's no damage. This is actually pretty good metal. But I've got this hole and I've got this hole that I don't need, because these are for the factory fender flares, and I'm not using the factory fender flares. I'm using these TJ flares. But anyway, I got damage here. I got obvious stuff going on there, and I don't know what the hell is going on here. But anyway, I'm going to dig into this. I'm going to see what I got and see what I need to fix, and we'll go from there. So yeah, if you look at that, here and here, that's all, again, that's rust caught between some pinholes. So what I'm gonna have to do is probably from back here, I'll come up about yay high, and I think I'll just go all the way over to the front just to get rid of all that damage with one patch. Fortunately, most of this is open behind, so it'll make it a lot easier. It'll just be up here where the fender bolts through might be a bit of a thing, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But I guess we'll start cutting and see where we end up. So that shows you the size of the patch that I'm putting in here. I ground this, and you can see kind of the markings where a couple of spot welds are going to be. I'm right here too, I guess. I'm going to do my best to cut that out of there without buggering up everything in behind and causing myself a whole bunch more trouble. So I've cut through a couple spots, but most of this I've just sort of scored it in hopes that I can preserve what's in behind there. So I'll keep screwing around with this, and we'll see where we get. Well, it's coming. I found a few. Looks like I got another one right here to deal with, and maybe some more up here. I'm not sure. Keep searching. A little bit of more automotive archaeology, like I've said before. So I found the rest of the spot welds. I actually had to smash some with a chisel, but because I just scored this top, scored this side, but I actually broke it free already, and now it just sort of folds along that line. And blam! Ooh, look at that. I may have to deal with a little bit more of that just to take care of that rust. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that there yet, but we'll figure something out. This front corner is a little more interesting than I thought it might have headed into, but actually what's behind there looks nice and solid, so that's a bonus anyway. And it looks like I'm gonna have to cut this back to make sure there's still a little bit of stuff sandwiched in between here. I don't think I want to cut up any higher into here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. I certainly don't want to get into this Jeep logo. I guess you can't see, but you don't want to get into the Jeep logo by cutting too much higher up here. But I guess we'll just cut a little bit more and see what it has to tell us. Definitely, to do this front end the right way, I'm going to have to pull this fender off. But I had to pull the fender off because I had to finish welding that anyway. And for all the rest of the work I was going to do, the fender had to come off either way. So not the end of the world, but we'll just keep digging. Okay, so I had to cut back. Like you can see, I cut back this much, and then I cut back this much again to get to something where I've got something good to weld to down here. That's not such a big deal. I just added another 5/8 of an inch to the overall length of my patch, but you know what? It's gonna be just fine. And on the back side, I'm gonna be able to dribble some stuff in there that's gonna soak down and ideally neutralize this rust behind this panel. But I'm sure that's gonna end up just fine too. So this piece, I'll be fitting in as my patch, and that'll be actually really nice. It'll get rid of those 2 unwanted holes. It'll get rid of that body damage that was just right here, and I think it should turn out just about right. Here's hoping, anyway. So I just formed that little lip on this piece of I-beam. That's what I always do. I just hooked or clamp that down and bend it over. Now I'm going to take this thing, and just to tighten up that 90, I'm going to tap it a little bit more along here, and should be a good start to where I want to be. And now I got to weld a 1-inch flange on the front of this patch. It's actually got to tuck in between the fender and the tub at the front corner there. That's the reason that I'm going to have to pull that front fender off for sure to make sure this all fits right. But as far as building the patch goes, I can do all that before I have to screw around taking any fenders off or anything. So that's going to be my rough patch. It's got a lip on the bottom like I need, and it's got a flange on the front like I need. So a couple things I can do. I'm going to replace this chunk of rotten out stuff down here. I think I'm going to have to replace a bit of floor, and then this piece from here to say about here of that lip I'm going to have to replace too. But it's not going to be that big of a deal. I will have to pull that fender off and do whatever I got to do with that, because this flange here actually wraps around the front there and basically replaces this little skinny piece of crap that I left in there. So I'll be able to rust treat all this and get that all wrapped around and make sure that's nice and sound, and everything in behind here looks to be nice and solid, so that's a bonus. That'll just get cleaned up as good as I can and rust treated as well. So next step, I don't know, next step maybe will be that chunk of floor and that chunk of flange. That's probably what I'll do next. So I took to digging, and I dug out, there was a whole shitwhack of seam sealer in and around there that you can, I just took that out, and it's pretty obvious to me. I started chipping some stuff out. It's pretty obvious to me that underneath that little structural deal, I'm going to have to replace the bottom of the structural, replace the bottom of the Jeep floor, and then that will allow me to, once that's done, I'll be able to put this lip back on. Now, I'm probably going to have to cut this back a little bit further. I don't think that's definitely not enough to weld to quite yet. But the patch that I made goes all the way back to here. So I'm just going to keep slivering this back till I get into some good metal. And that's how we'll decide how far back that goes. We'll go back absolutely no further than we have to get into some sound metal to get back to patching to. Fortunately, up here, it's already by here. It's already nice and strong. It's just kind of some dusty surface rust on there. I'll be able to clean that off, and I'll be able to weld to that like skin hell, so we don't have to worry about that at all. So I ended up cutting a little more than I hoped I would have to. The entire piece underneath here is cut. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Yeah, there you can see it there. The entire bottom of that is cut, and the floor underneath it. Fortunately, I didn't have to go very far to get into good metal. Now, what I'm going to do, right or wrong, I'm going to build the floor piece, including this flange. I'm going to put that in. Then I'm going to build the bottom of this. I'm going to slide it in, and I'll weld it here, and I'll probably weld it on the inside on the other two sides. And that should be solid. That should be good. And then basically what I can do is anything that's at all shitty, like I already put some rust treatment on there, and we'll see how it looks. Probably end up putting some more on there, but we'll get that stuff, that whole area good and solid. I'll make sure it's as solid or solider than she was from factory. I'll probably weld it top and bottom and make sure everything's 100% good in there. And then basically what I'll have to do is take this fender off and address this front part. Like I said before, all this metal feels nice and super solid. So it'll just be a matter of cleaning it up, getting all the surface rust off of it, and killing all that surface rust, and we'll go from there. But the nice thing is, up inside there, I should be able to spray some stuff inside this cavity and kill that rust, because that's the main thing. I want to make sure in these sandwiched panels that nothing comes back in a few years or something awesome like that. So there's my first patch for the floor piece. Pretty much as simple as it gets. So I'll get that in place so that I can build the bottom of the structural member to that. Well, there's my first patch, just tacked in 4 corners. You can see that I got it tacked in. So I'll just have to straighten up that edge where it meets the old floor pan, which shouldn't be any problem at all. And I'll get that welded in there as my first step. So she's all booger welded on there pretty good. I was able to get at it from the bottom and the top, but I'm not gonna be able to get in there to clean it up as easily as I'd like. And what I've figured out is I've got to fill in this 1/4 inch gap, and I've obviously got to put a plate on the bottom of this piece. So this might be dumb, but I'm doing it. What I've decided to do is I'm just going to cut this off somewhere right about here where it's easy to weld, and I'm going to build the bottom of it on the bench. I'm going to put it back in, and I'm going to weld it back right along my cut line, and then I'll spot weld it in from the bottom, or plug weld it, or however you want to call it, and it'll be good. It'll be as solid or more so than it was before. So that's the plan. More hacking and slashing. Make it worse to make it better, I guess. So that's all cleaned up pretty good. I did the bottom side too. The only real reason that I cleaned them up as good as I did is just I wanted to make sure that the welds penetrated right through. And I got a real nice job that way. I did it from the bottom as well. And there's just 1 or 2 little spots that I might need to touch up on the bottom. But I'll do that when I go to do my plug welds from the bottom, rather than screwing around, dragging my old ass down there twice with the welder. I'll just do it once. There is this little spot right here that I touched with the angle grinder. I'll just have to close that up with a couple of tacks too, but that should be no big deal at all either. Let's look at building that. Let's look at building the replacement for this section here. So this is the piece I cut out of there. This is the piece I'm just gonna add on to the bottom. I only need a 1/4 inch, but I'm just gonna tack this on there, and I'll just cut it off at what I need. Then I'll just weld the two end pieces in, and then I'll figure out something for a bottom plate. But it'll end up being basically exactly as it was, but I'm confident what I'm going to have here is going to be every bit as strong or stronger, and certainly stronger than the rusted out piece of crap that I replaced. So pretty excited about how this is going to turn out. So I welded the first piece along the bottom. I welded the other side first, but then there was I just wanted to make sure of 100% penetration, and I just put tacks all along this side too. Did I need to? I don't know, but I did. And now I'm just going to dress this up, clean this up. What I'll have to do is, this is basically a 1/4 inch, so I'll just have to put a 1/4 inch here, a 1/4 inch here, and I'll fit that in the Jeep. Once I'm happy with how that's fitting, I'll just weld in basically like a floor to this piece that will be right flat on the floor pan of the Jeep. That'll be my patch, and pretty excited about how this is going to turn out. So I just scabbed a little piece on there, and scabbed a little bit bigger piece on there, and freaking welded her on. I got a little impatient, but doesn't really seem like there's any warpage there, and if there is on this piece, I don't really give a shit. But we'll just tune that up, make it what it needs to be, and then I'll see what it looks like fitted into the truck. Into the Jeep, I guess. It's a Jeep, not a damn truck. Well, that looks all right. First pass, and it actually looks like it fits in there pretty damn good. I'm just going to take it back out and dress it all up real good and weld that floor into it. And ideally, we'll be putting it back in there one more time for the last time. So there, I'll just scab that piece in there and just get to cleaning up and making it look like something. Should be good. Okay, that's ready to put in. Well, I'll dope it up real good with some kind of paint just to make it look, well, not to make it look, but just to make it not rust back and make sure the last little bit of that rust is neutralized. But honestly, I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. I welded it on the inside more for strength than anything, but I better clean that up a little bit to make it look a little bit more presentable. But I'm not gonna like grind any weld away from there, because there's no point. That will be visible from in there, but it'll be covered up with an interior panel and whatnot before the vehicle is up and running, so nobody's gonna see it. It'll look good. And that is why it doesn't matter what you're painting, always clean it first. Look at that. That paint in just that certain spot reacted with some shit and wrinkled it up, and now I gotta do it over. That's just mint. I cannot believe how well this is turning out. It's kind of not as easy to see with all those stupid magnets in there, but that little bit of a gap here is going to be just perfect for doing a real nice strong weld. And I'm going to be able to access it to weld from this backside, as well as, if necessary, I can weld it from the inside too. It's yeah, you know, this I'm super happy with this repair and how solid this is going to be when I'm done. One of the big things that person's always got to remember, you know, it's important that it looks good on the outside, but if it ain't solid on the inside, you don't need to be doing that, because, you know, I'm building this for my daughter, but it doesn't matter. You might build it to sell and somebody else's son or daughter drives the damn thing. So if you're going to do it, make sure you do it right and make it nice and solid, or just don't do it. That's all I can say. Ooh, that's nice. That's real nice. Now all I got to do, weld up this little screw up here, a couple plug welds probably from below, and we'll look at fitting that outer piece. But again, I will have to remove that front fender, but that's not a big deal. Had to come off anyways, I guess. Really happy with the way that turned out. I think I mentioned that once before. So now the fender's off. I guess I'll have to zip this off here. And while I'm in here and it's way more accessible, I got a snapped off bolt here too. I better drill that piece of junk out. I put some magic rust juice on it a while ago, but it doesn't appear like it's seeped into the front at all here, so it might be easier said than done getting that sucker out of there, but I guess we'll see. We'll give her a go. So after chiseling off a couple spot welds and destroying the shit out of that piece, it's off. So I'll be able to make my patch wrap right around like the original one did. Just going to clean that up and treat that rust and see what I can do about maybe getting that bolt out of there. So I'm trying to drill through or get rid of the remaining little stub of the bolt here. And over on this other side, fortunately I got lots sticking out that I can get a vice grip on, but so far she's stuck tighter than bark to a tree, so I'm just trying to be gentle with this because I would far rather have it thread out and be usable again than having to drill the whole dang thing out and put another nutsert in there or something like that. A lot of this Jeep I see is with nutserts and different things, which I actually kind of like until they go to crap, and then I don't like them at all. Well, I got that bolt out of there, which was good. A little bit of loose juice, and she was able to slide right out of there. Probably the most important thing I did was grinding the stub off of the front end of it. But anyway, what I did after I could get that out of there, I was able to set my patch in such that I could mark the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skinny up and cut to that line and start fitting this patch in as good as I can. Now the key is to do no more damage, because you know what it's like. I want this thing to be going back together, not I don't want to be wrecking anything and causing myself any other problems. So I just got back to fitting up this piece, and starting to wonder if I didn't maybe get a little bit ahead of myself here. It's super close, but the problem is this front corner, if you can see, it's out, and the reason that it won't come back is because I welded that inside corner. Now I was screwing around trying to grind that out with my little mini death wheel, but the problem is I can't well, I could, but I'm not doing a very good job of it. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off that front lip. Maybe I just got a little bit ahead of myself. I'll weld the whole entire piece in, and then I'll just weld that corner piece in after the fact. To be honest with you, I did make it a little smaller than it should have been, according to the old original piece anyway. And it will make it a whole lot easier fitting the front in if I just lop that off and worry about making the rest of it right later on. So that's what I'm going to do now. So that fits a whole hell of a lot better. I had to skinny up the top a little bit here. I've got this nice big magnet that's real slick for holding that in there. Now all I got to do is just make sure I run a straight edge along the bottom to make sure the bottom's nice and straight. And I can look at maybe, I know I might hook a Cley fastener into there, or I'm not sure how I'm going to hold that. Maybe a bunch more magnets. We'll see. We'll figure something out. So I just marked out so I can drill some spots for my plug welds. Basically, it'll be plug welded into here 4 times and into here 3 times. Just basically like it was from factory, just to hold everything all together. And I mean, it is a body on frame, but this is still obviously got to be nice and structurally sound in case of rollover or whatnot. So I'll do it as much like factory as I can. So we'll keep going. Okay, well, I ground off all my plug welds to hold that piece in there. Now I'm just dressing up the outside welds. Actually, I'm really happy with the way it's turning out. It's gonna be really nice. One nice thing about, I think I mentioned before, but the steel in the tub is a thicker gauge than in the fenders, and it's a heck of a lot easier to work with. And another big thing that I've noticed, I'm finally learning that grinding creates warpage is no different than welding creates warpage. And honestly, I think that's where all my warpage problems that I was been having in the past has honestly more been from the grinding than the welding, because I haven't been doing anything really different. But I'm a lot happier with how flat and even these things are looking for me. Really happy with this. So that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. I didn't get the warpage like I've been getting normally, and I'm sure that's all due to the being a little more calm and gentle with my grinding. So learned something there. That's a big bonus. Now all I got to do is, you see that it's cut right there. I just got to put in this little piece right here, and I've actually got the piece that I cut out of the other one just to copy it, and it'll look pretty much just like it did from factory. So that right there is the piece that I've got to copy. This is just the hole for the fender bolt, and these are just from spot welds. But anyway, I'll copy this out on a piece with a real nice flat side on this side, and should be able to hook that up and make it look like something pretty dang good. So I traced it out on a little piece of scrap, rough cut it, and just rough cut it. And now I'm going to tune it up and make it as close to the perfect size as I possibly can. This one, it's nice, it's easy to get at, and it's a small piece, so I should be able to fairly easily make it about as perfect as anything I've ever made. We'll see. Now, would you look at that? Looks really good. Just a couple little tappies with a hammer to fit it in there, just mint, and should be ready to weld up. I think that was a far better idea than welding that thing on ahead of time. This is gonna turn out pretty much mint. So there you go. Looks pretty good. Definitely good enough. We'll be able to bodywork the rest and make this seam look perfect between the fender and the tub. But welded her up all pretty, and yeah, you know what, I'm really happy with the way that turned out. I do have to just add a little chunk to the bottom because I didn't make it quite long enough, and a couple plug welds from below. So that's what we'll get up to next. So that's her fogged with cheap primer, just to keep everything from flash rusting or whatever. Now you can see it's not perfect. This is not like a coach builder type of job. But between high build primer and whatnot, that'll straighten out, and it'll be as perfect as anything else on this rig. It'll look as good as you can imagine. It'll be really nice. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way this one turned out. Now I gotta say, I thought this patch was gonna be a lot less of a deal than it was. There was a lot more repair required there than I ever thought there would be, just by looking at the external damage. But that's one of them things. Once you get into it, you don't know what you don't know till you know it. So that's what happened to me here. I mean, I just kept digging until I found good metal and started building back from that. And you know what? It's really not that big of a deal. I got better with my welder settings than I have yet to this point, and I'm really happy about that. I I just this every one of these that I do gets a little bit better and a little bit easier than the last. So by the time I do the 6 million patches on this Jeep, I should be pretty dang good, just in time to not do it for another couple years and forget everything I learned. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of that. If you like this, if you want me to show a little more detail, if you whatever if you'd like to see something that I'm doing that I'm not showing or anything like that, just put it in the comments. I'd be happy to share everything that I'm doing here. I am kind of glossing over a lot of stuff because you know maybe you guys know a whole lot more about this than me. If you see something that I'm doing that I'm not doing right, or maybe I could be doing better, I'd love to hear that too. So appreciate any comments, any insight. Appreciate anybody that feels like they want to subscribe to the channel, follow along with what I'm doing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great night.